The views and opinions expressed here on Wrestling Winedown are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, employer, or company. What's up, guys? It's Lo, and you are tuned in to Wrestling Winedown, a female-founded and hosted podcast dedicated to professional wrestling and our favorite adult beverage. The wrestling community is filled with so many talented artists who create amazing works of art. I am so honored to be joined by Mel Coleman, a wrestling artist who has her work currently featured on AEW television. Mel is spilling the wine on how she got her start in creating art, when she knew creating wrestling art was her passion, Mel's creative process of making art, and what pieces we can look forward to in the future. So grab your favorite glass of bubbly. We're going in for the 3 count. Welcome back to another episode of Wrestling Winedown. I am so honored to be joined by one of my favorite wrestling artists. You've probably seen her work. She is all over the place. She is on AEW television. She's on Jazwares boxes. She is taking over. Mel Coleman, welcome to Wrestling Winedown. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm great. I'm fantastic. I'm very happy to be here. I couldn't think of anyone better to do this with, so thank you.
Aw. Let's dive right in. When did you first start watching wrestling?
Let me try to break this down. I have 3 brothers. I'm the only girl. My family is from Portugal, so when they immigrated over to Canada, they didn't speak a lick of English. So naturally, wrestling was something that they all gravitated to, and we all gravitated to, and it was something that was just universal. We can watch and understand what was going on. My first memory would be Royal Rumble 93 with Bret Hart and Razor Ramon, 2 of my favorite guys. So that was always something that stuck with me. And ever since then, it's just been hot fire. Loving it and just enjoying everything about it.
What has kept you so interested in professional wrestling?
I think it's evergreen, right? There's always something new, something fresh happening, even though the same foundation still exists with everything. There's always the good versus bad, and it's drama, right? So everyone has their comic books and Marvel movies. I have wrestling. So.
Oh, I like that.
It's action you get to actually be a part of live, and it's cool. I love it. It's drama. What more do you want? It's violence and theater.
I've heard it compared to a soap opera, a novella, but I actually love the analogy that you just gave. I might have to use that one.
Absolutely. It's true, right? They've got their little tights and everything. They know what they're doing.
Who were some of your favorite wrestlers to watch when you first began watching wrestling versus now?
I mean, it goes without saying, Canadian girl is always going to be Bret Hart, Owen Hart, the Hart Foundation. Razor Ramon, again, another what's not to love about him. He was just great in so many different ways. I digress. But I think the over-the-top and technical wrestlers for me, always did it for me. It was just always so fun to watch and just to see what they would do. I always liked the gimmicky things too, don't get me wrong. I was very into it. Growing up afterwards, as I became a teenager, the Hardy Boys, Lita, seeing Lita for the first time blew my mind. I was I'm going to be her one day. Just that, it just captured me in those, everything that they had done and still do. And versus now, it's just, I feel it's just gotten better, especially for women, of course, which I'm just so happy about. It's come a long way, and so many women have help pave the way for that. So it's really nice to see women's wrestling and something that isn't just bra and panties.
Right.
So that's really cool to see, and just to see the respect, and people enjoy it too, and they're really kick ass at it. So I'm loving it. I'm loving it all for them.
You just mentioned that you live in Canada. Let me ask you, have you been to Bret Hart's new bar?
I haven't. I was there. I'm going to take my Canadian passport away. I can see it happening. I was there and I didn't go. I was a little busy with a couple of things. It was just so overwhelming because the Canadian stampede was happening at the same time. But I heard it was amazing, and I'm so sad that I missed it.
You have to go next time. It looks so cool. It looks amazing. I saw some fans that went, and they really enjoyed it. I feel like we need some of that in the States, but you know.
I mean, hopefully, maybe it'll franchise over. Who knows?
Yeah.
Brett, come on.
Come on, Brett. You are such a talented artist. How did you get your start in art?
I guess it's always just been something I've gravitated towards. I was like that weird kid that had a binder with doodles all over them, and usually comics. And back then, even still now, the women were always very well endowed. So I was that weirdo with like these women scribbled all over because they were just so cool, and Wonder Woman's my favorite. But like everyone was like, "Who's that really weird girl drawing like these women and girls? Is she just what's going on?" But I've always just done it ever since I can pick up a crayon or a pencil. It's just something that I loved. And as I grew up, comics and then wrestling, it's just kind of been a very organic thing for me. I've always loved it, and I always wanted to make a career path out of it.
When did you know that you wanted to embark in the world of wrestling art? Did you have a specific moment or experience where you said, I absolutely need to start doing this right now?
It was so weird. I mean, like, it was a time for everybody because COVID had just happened or was happening, going through it. I lost my job, and I was going through a lot, both like physically, mentally, emotionally. And I was like, should I start back up with like doing some art again? I wasn't too sure. I did a couple like portraits with Roman Reigns and Charlotte Flair and things like that. But when AEW like just debuted, it just something sparked within me, and I was just like, this is freaking cool. Like, I really want to see if I can maybe dabble with these guys and gals, and like something just so magnetic about everybody, the production and everything. It just something just spoke to me. I know it sounds corny, but it's just something that I wanted and needed to do. And ever since then, I believe the first hit thing that I did was the Christmas stuff, and it was like November of 21, I think. I can't remember exactly, but it started with the little Christmas cards with AEW, and it just blew up, and thank God that it did. I love you guys for it. It was a lot of fun, so I'm really happy. It fulfills me so much that I can do something that I love with wrestling, because I love wrestling so much.
Take me through your creative process. How does it typically go? What programs do you use? How do you prepare to even begin creating art? Like, take me through the whole thing. I want to know everything, girl.
God, girl, like, we have no time. I've mentioned this before to a few people. Like, it's just, up here is just, I mean, like, I'm pointing to my head right now, but it's like a bag of squirrels chasing nuts. It's just that crazy, and just, there's so much going off and firing off with ideas, what I want to do, and obviously that becomes overwhelming, and sometimes I don't get to do what I'd like to do. Programs that I was starting on a little program app called Infinite Painter, and I started doing that with the Android that I had. Now that I'm on an iPad, I can still use it, but I'm also using Procreate, which is just so cool that I can flip-flop between the two of them. But yeah, those are the two programs that I'm using now that I don't have like an actual computer. Works well, works great, I'm happy with it. In terms of like process on like the ideas, it just kind of sort of happens. Like, again, coming from a comic type background, there's always ideas and like images that I see in my head that I'd love to create. Certainly watching the show, like the whole thing with Shivani calling him a prick. There are hot moments where you're just waiting and watching, and if you jump to the opportunity, you can make things happen for yourself. And I am a firm believer of that. Like, make the opportunity, and it will spark, and things will catch on. So I'm always very grateful for having fresh new things to watch and let that spark. Like the whole thing with Kenny and Dawn, the first painting that I had done, I hated it. When it happened, I was, this would be so cool if I can create this and recreate based off the actual painting of Ivan the Terrible. But going through it, not so hot. I stayed up all night working on it and just gave up first thing in the morning. And I remember reading some of the comments, because I made a comment on something, and someone was like, so when's the painting happening? I was like, I gotta do this now. So I did. I finished it, put it up, and just afraid that like it was going to be well received, and so blessed that it was. I'm so grateful to everybody because let me tell you, without the whole thing about like imposter syndrome, it's real. It is absolutely real. So I'm very, very grateful for everyone's support and feedback with everything because none of this would have been happening if it wasn't for everybody, really. So I'm very, very grateful.
Let's talk a little bit about that art piece that we have all seen now. How did this opportunity arise? I know you said you saw the comment, you knew that you absolutely had to make the art, but what was the process like of actually working with AEW to get it incorporated within those entrances as well as just displayed in general?
So I think, again, like when I had first come up with the first piece with Kenny and Dawn, it was just throw it out there and just have a good time with everybody because it was such a moment. I feel like that will probably go on with like wrestling history moment kind of things, like shocking events. So that was really cool, and I really wanted to encapsulate that with something like the painting. I was very fortunate that someone had reached out and asked if they can use it for their program. Of course, I'm more than happy to oblige. I was just really, really honored that they would ask and that it was displayed in such a way. I had no idea that it was going to be used in a certain way, so I thought it was just going to be like one of those little, like the shirtless Kenny and Dawn that we had seen previously. Not my work, but I thought maybe something in lines of that, but it turned out to be something so much more, which was very emotional for me.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what was it like seeing it in person? I know when you were at some of the Canada shows, you saw it. I can only imagine how that is for you to actually see your art up there.
Yeah, it was, I'm going to try not to cry. Jesus Christ, get it together. It was just everything that I've been working so hard towards happening in front of my eyes, which is so cool. I know I work very hard, and I always mention like how I am so grateful to everybody and everyone's support, but it's so nice to see little rewards like this happen, and I'm very hopeful that it continues, and I will work hard for it, of course. Nothing's ever just given. It was so crazy to see it live and see it in person, just to see it, and everyone's reaction around it as well. It's just so much fun. I love it so much. So I'm very, very grateful and thankful that they have used it the way that they have and continue to use pieces.
Do you keep count of how many art designs that you do?
I mean, I try. Jesus, I'm very disorganized with this cluttered brain. But in terms of like AEW using my artwork?
Or no, just in general, just with wrestling art. Do you keep track of how many you've created, how many you've posted? I'm sure there's probably a lot that you have created and you probably like, oh, I won't post that.
Yeah, I mean, there's always sketches that I do. I do little warm-ups before I ever start a piece, just to kind of loosen up a little bit. So kind of started posting them a while back. It was just like a little black and white headshot.
Yeah.
So I would do something like that. Still do. Sometimes it'll be wrestlers, sometimes it'll be friends, things like that, but just to kind of loosen up. But there are a lot of like unused concepts and maybe like work in progresses that I haven't like finished. And I should. Things get busy, unfortunately. But yeah, there are some wild ideas and some that, like the What If series, like there's still a whole bunch that I want to kind of go back to and rekindle that a little bit because, you know, more wrestlers are coming in and like things are changing. So it's always fun to kind of concoct ideas of who to swap with who.
Out of all of the pieces that you have created, what would you say has been your favorite?
Oh, it's so hard. I think it's going to be like the most recent ones, Takeshita and Dawn. It's so ridiculous. It was like the second that it was mentioned and it was brought to me, I had finished that within, I want to say it was under 12 hours. It might have been a little bit more, but I worked on it throughout the whole night and I just couldn't stop giggling. Like I just had so much fun with it. And just knowing that it was going to be, people are going to react in so many different ways. And for me, that's the most fun about what I do is just to know that there's always going to be polarizing opinions. But everyone's always going to have a good time with it. And that's all I really want to do essentially with my artwork. And just to make people happy, make people laugh. And I don't take it seriously at all, clearly. I do it just because I love it. And I hope that people, whenever they do see a piece, they kind of get that feeling from that. Yeah, it's just fun. that piece to me is probably going to be, for right now, is probably going to be my favorite at this point. But there's a whole bunch that means something to me. So, but that one definitely, I think I want that like huge printed on my wall somewhere one day. Just ridiculousness.
What has been your most time-consuming piece, and how long did it take you to construct?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I feel like a lot of the Christmas card ones really took a lot of time, just because I was trying to emulate a certain feel and a certain nostalgia with it. Coming up with certain fits for what would be right, like with Hangman Page on the little pony, was the rocker?
Yeah, the rocker, yeah.
There's just a certain thing that you have to kind of go through and find out who's going to be the right fit for that. So you never want to offend anybody. You never want to, still want to have creative liberties, but you always want to make sure you're respecting the talent and not doing anything too silly. But I feel like those ones were, for me, especially just coming back into the art, I was so worried about not doing something right or not doing it good enough. So a lot of thought and a lot of care went into making those little Christmas cards, and hopefully I'll kind of do them again if I get a chance this year. I can kind of recollect it all and do some new ones. But for me, those ones took the longest time to make sure that I paid respect to Norman Rockwell at the time and made sure that the feel of it felt like if you were to get a Christmas card at that time, that's exactly what it would feel and look like. So to me, that's still very special to me. There's so many different ways.
You have been recognized, and I always see the kind words on my timeline that people send to you about your art in the IWC. What does it mean to you to know that there are wrestlers as well as fans that see your work, as well as they appreciate it, they love it, they share it, they want you to sell it? How does it feel to get that love and appreciation from both the subjects that you illustrate as well as the fans?
I feel like this may not sound right, but there's a certain validation that comes with it, and kind of like inner peace for me, knowing that what I am doing is right. And as hard as it is some days, and it can get the struggle is real, but it's incredible. It really is. The amount of love has just been so overwhelming sometimes. The community, a lot of people rag on, how it is, especially with Twitter and all that. But I found for me that the community has been just so loving, so caring, so thoughtful, fun. We have the control to kind of navigate what we allow in and what not to. So I'm very fortunate that I've been able to have that. And I've made a lot of wonderful friendships, relationships because of it, and I'm so grateful. And if I had to do it over, I would. But it means everything to me. Again, try not to cry here. But it's so overwhelming. You never know how you're going to feel walking into a community, and it's a very niche community, so you always there's always good and bad, but it's just been such an overwhelming positive experience for me, and I hope that a lot of people get to experience that as well. There's so many wonderful artists out there that I've connected with, and it's just really cool. It's really cool just to be yourself and not have to worry about shying away and, oh, you can't talk about wrestling. Oh, you can't be a girl and like wrestling and do art. Things like that. There's just a level of acceptance that comes with it all that I'm just so grateful for. And I love it.
Okay, we have to talk about San Diego Comic-Con. Your art was featured on some new releases. There was one that was featured only at San Diego Comic-Con, and then you have some other ones that actually will be released to everyone else. Yes. Tell me how that process went. How were you approached? How long ago was it? How long did it take you to create the art? Did you know it was going to come out at San Diego Comic-Con? Spill it, girl. I want to know it all. Because when I saw it on my timeline, I was like, I know who drew that.
I love you. You're such a hype girl. Just come with me everywhere.
Okay, I'm there.
It was cool. I was contacted by Chris from Jazwares, and they're just wonderful. I was contacted through Instagram, and I was asked if I'd work with Hasbro or WWE, and to their surprise, I said no. So they had mentioned about working with me. They were interested in a few things that I had put up on Instagram and just wondered if I'd be a good fit for it. And from then on, we went to discussing the certain Sting figure that came out.
Yes.
Which was just wild. It was my first real big thing that I've been a part of that people actually can buy and hold in their hands, and it's just such a surreal thing for me. But they had contacted me last year winter and wondered if I'd be interested in doing it, and of course I couldn't hold down my excitement. I jumped to the opportunity and got to working on that right away. And they were just such a pleasure to work with, which led to the Ring of Honor series.
Yes.
So that was super cool to be a part of. I had posted the rough sketch of Jay Briscoe. They were interested with the style that came out and wondered if I'd be cool with doing something very similar for their small line that was going to be coming out. So we kind of elaborated on different type style. It was going to be very loose, very grungy. They're just such a pleasure. They're so cool and just so easygoing, and I couldn't say even nicer things about them. They're just so freaking awesome to work with. Going through a lot of the old footage for Ring of Honor just to see if I can capture the likenesses as best as I can, because there aren't a lot of good quality photos.
Right.
So that was fun to kind of just look through resources and go back to why I even started loving wrestling and doing this, and the fact that I can combine the two just makes me just a very happy girl.
Did you get your own copy
of
the Sting?
I will be. I don't know yet. I don't have it yet, but I mean, I'm sure it'll fall in my lap somehow. I'm just happy that it's out there, and see Sting holding it like Simba from The Lion King was pretty cool. Baby. That was really cool. So I'm really, really stoked to see how the Ring of Honor figures come out, and just to see everyone's excitement. The feedback on that's just been wild. So I'm just so freaking excited that people are excited about having my work on something that they can buy. So I'm just cloud nine right now, and I hope that I get more opportunities, which I'm sure I will.
I'm sure you will too.
Keep working hard at it, things will happen, but I'm very happy.
Looking into the future, what goals do you have when it comes to creating wrestling art? Are we trying to get you signed to AW? Are we going to see you all over?
I would love nothing more. That is the top goal. The top goal is to be there as an artist somehow, some way. I know that doesn't exist at this point, but make it happen. I'll go kicking and screaming if I have to. I love them. It sounds so corny, but they've just given something to me during one of the hardest times of my life that I just feel obligated, and have such a love for that I need to do this just to put everything right. It's just fun. The guys and gals there, they all work so hard. They give me such inspiration for things that it feels right. So for me, that is the top. That is the tippy top. That is the pinnacle that I need to reach. And I feel like anything else that comes from it, whether it's Jazwares, it's all up there. It's all up from here. I can't really say that I've got one goal bigger than the other, but it's certainly the biggest goal is to continue doing wrestling art as an actual professional. So I'm going to keep towards that. It's going to happen. I feel like everything has been organically going the right way. So if I just keep at it, keep to my guns, work hard, eat your vitamins, say your prayers, kids, it'll happen. And just a firm believer of that. Again, I've got such a great army beside me, so I can't see this failing.
Do you have any upcoming pieces that you could share with us?
Well, I can't go into it, but there will be some pieces coming out very soon that I think everyone is going to be very excited about. And again, I wish I could go into detail, but I can't, but it's going to happen. It'll be out there, guys. I promise.
We will keep an eye out, definitely.
No. Oh, you guys will know. I'll just blow it up in everyone's face. I'll be like, guys, look.
Thank you, Mel, so much for joining me here on Wrestling Winedown. Where can the people keep up with you on social media?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram, Mel Coleman Art. Always on there, mostly on Twitter. I use Instagram for just to update my artwork, but very online with Twitter. So if you guys just want to say hi or drop a line, just hit me up. It's cool, and it's just such a pleasure to be here talking with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Wrestling Winedown. You can find all of our other episodes available wherever you listen to your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and iHeartRadio. We are on Twitter and Instagram at WWDCAST. We also have our official merch store, which you can find at shop.wrestlingwinedownlv.com. Let us know what you thought about this episode. What was your favorite part? Until next time, enjoy your wine and, of course, enjoy your wrestling. Cheers!